The United States was founded by individuals fleeing religious persecution, and the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides freedom of religion. However, many of our laws are based at least in part on religious traditions. Today we see elected officials using religious arguments to restrict access to science and technology. This is despite a 2023 Gallup survey suggesting that less than half of Americans describe themselves as religious. I am Professor John Hoffman. In this week's Ethical Dilemma in Science, we consider, is the separation of church and state possible when regulating science and technology? In this video, we will consider, what is the separation of church and state? Does religion influence laws? And finally, is religion restricting science and technology? What is the separation of church and state? For many Americans, the concept of religious freedom originates with the arrival of pilgrims aboard the Mayflower in 1620. These English Protestants broke from the Church of England and lived as separatists in exile before arriving in the Americas. They were joined within a decade by the Puritans, a group that wanted to purify the Church of England from within. However, their view of religious tolerance did not extend to Catholics or Quakers. In early America, Catholics were first banned from the colonies and later banned from holding office, while others had to swear an oath affirming their belief in the Trinity. Before the Revolutionary War, American colonists include pockets of Islam and Judaism. When the United States of America was founded, no single religious denomination was practiced by more than 1/5 of the colony's citizens. Some of the nation's founders were deists, embracing skepticism, rationalism, and a natural religion rather than religious orthodoxies. In recognition of the religious discrimination and oppression that had occurred earlier in American history, the Constitution, adopted in 1789, included the text in the last line of Article 7, which read, "No religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States." While this prevented a religious test as a requirement from public office, it did not provide religious freedom. Less than 3 years later, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, commonly referred to as the Bill of Rights, were ratified. The First Amendment established and protected the civil rights crucial to American life and included, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This portion of the amendment, as sometimes referred to as the Establishment Clause, prevents the creation of a state-sponsored or state-affiliated religion such as the Church of England. It has been further interpreted to mean that the government should not favor one religion over another, which is why Christmas nativity scenes include secular symbols such as plastic reindeer, a Santa Claus house, and a Christmas tree, or other religious symbols such as a menorah or Kwanzaa candles. It also impacts the display of the Ten Commandments on public property or in public schools. However, this could all change in light of the Supreme Court's 2022 decision in Kennedy versus Bremerton that reversed previous precedents. For many Americans, the First Amendment's freedom of religion protects an individual's right to worship as they believe, but is the contrary view also true? Does the freedom of religion provide Americans a right to freedom from religion? Before considering if religion influences our laws, it is necessary to understand where our laws come from. I am from the generation that grew up with Schoolhouse Rock on Saturday morning.
I'm just a bill, yes, I'm only a bill, and I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill.
But seriously, our elected officials in the House of Representatives and Senate propose new laws as bills. If the bills are approved separately by a majority of the representatives and senators and signed by the president, then the proposed bill becomes a law. But where do the ideas for our laws come from? Many of the fundamental laws set forth early in American history were based on British common law. but this was dependent upon a judge's decisions, resulting in inconsistencies in different regions. So the tenets of the common law were written down in a statute book, giving us our modern-day statutory laws. Rather than kicking the can down the lane in a detailed retelling of the history of our modern legal system, we can consider the claim that the American legal system was founded on Judeo-Christian principles in general and the Ten Commandments in particular. Only 3 of the 10 Commandments are represented in modern law, with prohibitions against murder, theft, and perjury. But these principles can be traced back at least as far in history as the Code of Hammurabi from around 1754 BCE, which also established the concept of innocent until proven guilty. Additionally, until recently, the legal definitions of marriage and family structures have been heavily influenced by Judeo-Christian traditions. So while parallels between religious tenets and modern laws exist, the connections are likely more cultural than religious. So is there religious influence on our laws? According to a Pew Research Center report, Christians make up 88% of the voting members of the 118th Congress, sworn in on January 3, 2023. This high percentage still reflects a decline from much higher numbers over the past 60 years. As a representative democracy, American citizens elect government officials who speak for and represent their constituents' ideas and concerns. Representatives are informed by their constituents' views on a given topic, but are expected to vote according to what is best for their community. So their decisions are influenced, at least in part, by their perspective. These community representatives are accountable for their actions during the next elections. A system of representative democracy differs from a direct democracy, where the entire electorate votes to make decisions. This type of system is present in 26 states that allow citizens to collect signatures to either place a law or constitutional amendment on the ballot or to repeal an enacted law. In response to the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade in June 2022, 6 states in 2022 and 1 state in 2023 had elections with abortion-related issues on the ballot. And at least 4 states will consider these issues in November 2024. Is religion restricting science and access to technology? According to a 2021 Pew Research Center study, just over half of Americans report a conflict between science and religion, with volatile topics such as evolution, reproductive science, genetic engineering, and cloning. Embryonic stem cell research is controversial, but surveys over the past decade consistently show that about 2/3 of Americans feel this research is morally acceptable. Religious arguments are raised against human embryonic stem cell research, which has led to a back-and-forth debate, bans, and approval of research funding. Federal support is limited to a few approved cell lines derived from embryos created through in vitro fertilization for reproductive purposes that are donated rather than discarded. Several states, such as New Jersey and California, established programs to provide funds to support stem cell research. More recently, lawmakers have invoked religious beliefs in blocking or limiting access to reproductive technologies such as in vitro fertilization, contraception, and abortion. In a May 2024 Gallup survey, a strong majority of Americans of all political parties support the morality of in vitro fertilization. However, in vitro fertilization services were suspended earlier this year when the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that individuals could be liable for wrongful death if embryos created but not used were destroyed. Earlier in June 2024, an effort to protect a woman's access to contraception was blocked, and a bill to ensure nationwide access to in vitro fertilization is now under consideration. As we consider the ethical dilemma in science for this week, please leave your comments below on whether or not the separation of church and state is possible when regulating science and technology. Before we can answer that question, here are some additional prompts to get the thought process or discussion going. Should religious beliefs be allowed to influence laws and regulations governing scientific research and technological development? Should the government provide funding for scientific research or technological development that goes against the beliefs of certain religious groups? How can we prevent the imposition of religious values on scientific and technological progress while respecting the rights of religious individuals? And finally, is it possible to completely separate religious beliefs from the regulation of science and technology, given the influence of religion on societal values and ethical principles? In the description below is additional information and references. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe for more conversations on the ethical impact of science and technology on society. Until next time, stay curious and be informed.